Welcome back to Web Certain TV. I'm Gemma Houghton. Today I'm joined by Phil Gorski, who's a solicitor at Blacks, specialising in data protection. And today we're going to talk about the GDPR regulation that's due to come into force and its impact on marketers. Hi Phil, thanks for being here.
Hi.
So for those who aren't aware, which is probably a bit worrying, what exactly is the GDPR?
That's an acronym for the General Data Protection Regulation. It's the EU's new all-encompassing data protection law. We've had the Data Protection Act in the UK for a while, and this is to come in and really going to shake up how we're supposed to deal with our data protection laws and essentially how we use data all the time.
So what are the key changes, I guess, compared to what we know now as law? What are the key changes coming in with this that are going to affect how marketers have to operate?
I'll give you a typical lawyer's answer to that, which is it depends slightly, because there's loads of intended changes. The sort of headline ones are that lots of companies are going to have data protection officers in place to deal with all the things that have to be done. Yeah. There's a massive potential maximum fine now, and that's the thing that gets all the headlines. And so you're looking at millions, tens of millions of euros potentially. There's also new concepts like the right to be forgotten and things like that. We don't know how they're going to come in practice and what that actually means to businesses. At the moment, as a lawyer who specialises in the area, I'm looking to help people on a practical level, and it's quite difficult because we don't have very much guidance beyond what is a European piece of legislation.
And when is it actually due to come into force? What is the date for the launch?
It is the 25th of May next year, so we've got less than a year to go. And it's probably time, depending on the size of your business, to be getting a little bit worried. I don't like to be a scaremongering lawyer, but of all the things that you should be doing, working out what data you have and how you use it should be done pretty much now.
And are there any sectors where it is particularly relevant, maybe more than others, or does this apply across the board, however you work?
Yeah, there will be. The GDPR will affect businesses who have personal data at their core more than anywhere else. So if your business concentrates solely on that data, you're going to have to do more than others. All businesses will have personal data in some form because they'll have employees or something like that. And they'll have to do certain things. But if what you do depends upon the analysis, use of, marketing of personal data, you're going to have to think very carefully. And to be fair, most large businesses who do that are already thinking about what needs to be done.
And this is a European law, so this is obviously across all of the EU. How does that work for businesses that aren't based there? How does it work for those who are based there but operate in other countries? Because when it's an international world, then it becomes more difficult.
It's a really interesting question, because one of the big things about the GDPR is that it's supposed to apply to businesses who are not based in Europe. And the first question that a lawyer asks when they see that written down is, how are you going to make that work?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it will be possible. So businesses will be taking commercial decisions, and they'll be saying, does our business depend on meeting these standards? Because if it does, then they're obviously going to want to do that. Like the UK now, actually. It's been made clear that despite Brexit, we're still going to have the GDPR come into force, and we're going to stick to it. Right. And that's because we're going to be doing loads of business with Europe. And I think many other countries or businesses in other countries will be taking that view.
And that's another point you kind of mentioned there, just from when it comes to other countries, how to enforce it. But even within the EU, obviously there are a lot of businesses with a lot of data. There are not that many people probably working on this. How is it going to be, how will you be caught out if you don't comply? What are the ways that they're going to actually enforce it?
The Information Commissioner here, the ICO, is the organisation responsible for enforcement. And the impression I've got so far is that taking a very pragmatic and sensible approach to things, as they've done actually over a few years now. So it's not going to be a case where if you don't get everything in shape straight away, you're going to face a massive fine. They won't do that. Yeah. They will, however, enforce what's there. And if people start complaining about the fact that you're not meeting your obligations and respecting their rights, then the ICA will come in and there will be fines, there will be publicity surrounding your business. And that's probably the most important thing, I think. Your reputation will be affected more than anything.
So while it's slightly unlikely that you're probably going to be targeted directly necessarily, the bigger risk is the fact that this legislation will apply. So if somebody does make a complaint against you, there's something to then hold you to account to.
Yeah, I think that people like you and me are much more aware as individuals of our rights when it comes to data protection. The right to be forgotten. Everybody sort of knows about the fact that if you wanted to, you could get in touch with Google and have something removed. That trend, I think, is only going to increase. So people become more and more aware, and businesses won't be able to put their head in the sand anymore.
And with these kind of legislations, often there's a lot of hype around them, and then they don't always come to a great deal. And a lot of businesses may think, well, we'll wait and see, and this might, there's a lot of hype about nothing. Do you think that's the case, or do you think this is something that is going to be taken very seriously?
This will be taken seriously, and to be honest, even if it's taken only partly seriously, the fact that data encompasses all businesses and gets into every aspect of our lives means that it's going to be relevant regardless. People won't be able to ignore it. As with anything, it's a risk game, and businesses who say we'll take a chance will have to take a chance having thought about exactly what those risks are. My view is that it will be properly enforced. People will be taking it seriously, regardless of what we do politically in the meantime. Great.
Well, that's definitely something I think for many people to think about and look into. So thanks very much for sharing that today.
No problem.